So I thought that starting with just to tell people what BWH Hotel Group stands for, and this today is really about how Retool enabled us to work smarter and not harder. Before we do that, I'm just going to give you a tiny bit of rundown of who we are. Those of you who love to travel, I know these days it's hard to do. You probably have seen those logos sometime. Best Western Hotel Groups is actually comprised of 18 brands across all the different segments, from the luxury segment, which is World Hotels, over to sort of more the economic and the budget stuff within the Short Stay Hotel Group. Those of you probably recognize the Best Western logo there, and that's the most renowned brand. So in Scandinavia, which is the company that I'm representing here. We are an affiliate to the organization headquartered in Phoenix, with the whole chain has about 4,500 properties. And in Scandinavia, we have about 150 hotels that are part of the chain. Now, part of the chain means they are really members, and every single property is individually owned and managed, which means we don't own most of the things. Most of their processes is internal to the hotels. They decide on how they market, they decide on how they price, and every hotel is pretty much different wherever you may choose to stay. So that's actually a very, very unique thing, because you think that this is a chain and you get the quality of a chain, but you also get the quirky details of every single little place, maybe in a little village or maybe in a big city. And we've also come to Greenland. So those of you who might want to travel to Greenland, check that out. Now, centrally within Scandinavia, we support these hotels through a very lean Scandinavian organization with about 30 employees, which are scattered across Scandinavia, but most of us are sitting in the office in Stockholm here. And we support the hotels with their corporate sales, marketing efforts, the loyalty program, which is the Best Western Rewards program, as well as distribution and revenue management, which is what I'm part of. And so revenue management in a nutshell is really about trying to make a decision on the price, the availability of certain inventory, or to block or adjust certain channels. So whether you want to make sure that the number of bookings come through one particular travel agent, say booking.com, or whether they come rather through some web channels. And really a lot of these tools, they are based on a lot of data, which is based on mostly on what we call snapshots. And there we want to compare what has been booked yesterday versus 3 days ago. What is exactly on the books? And there we talk about booked rooms, revenue, average price, and occupancy. And revenue managers love tables. So they want to see comparisons against forecasts, various forecasts. Think about a forecast that's internal to the company, or a forecast which is agreed with a hotel. But you also want to know how you did actually with respect to last year, and what events are happening in your city. So you can imagine that there are several data sources which are all separate from one another that drive all these decisions. And normally people would sit with various windows, and our revenue managers have 2 screens, but they don't need to have 10 applications open to get all of these insights. And so one of the big challenges is the end user versus the engineering realities. The end user, they want to have fast work because they support lots of hotels, very few people, lean organization. They want to have a nice user interface and really good user experience. They want to have flexibility because you can't really predict what they want to look at. And they have one place to rule them all, well, the hotels anyways. And of course, they want to have a solution by tomorrow or by yesterday. Now, the realities are we have lots of different hotel software vendors to support, which send us these snapshots, which need to work within our data environment. They're disconnected data sets from various places, which is being the hotel data, like benchmarking market data, so where all the hotels in Scandinavia contribute to, but also real-time price checks. And what is very difficult, and those of you who have worked with Excel, you know it's quite easy to break these advanced toolboxes. There is hard to predict user patterns. Do you have one user which tends to compare like 3 days or 7 days, or wants to look at other things? And last not least, I'm a one-man DevOps and data team, so we really needed to think about a smart solution for that. And my biggest headache has been, and those who have played in this space, the nightmare of the missing snapshot. My nightmare of this missing snapshot goes like this. Typically in an Excel application, the revenue manager would start at 8 or 9 in the morning, sometimes even earlier, and they would first ask the data team, oh, well, has the snapshot been uploaded? Has the Excel spreadsheet been updated? Or maybe they have a database direct connection, but then they have all kinds of issues with possibly leaking, what happens if the computer gets stolen, etc. And so the bad or missing snapshot really translates into a bunch of questions, which are these little yellow boxes here. But the blue actions are actions that the revenue manager can take. And so the nightmare of the missing snapshot really comes into like, okay, is the file there? Yeah, well, it's in the database. Okay, if it's in the database, then let's just restage it. Did it fix it? I'm a happy camper. If not, well, I need to check other things. Is the file in the bucket? Yes, then I can restage it. Is the snapshot not there? Then upload the file. All of these things are things that ultimately a user can do, so they don't need to bother me with all the other things I have already on my list. And so that gave me the idea to this prototype, which now became a fully fledged tool, our self-help tool, which explains to the users what they need to do in order to exercise this restaging snapshots, uploading files, or in the worst case, update the report configuration, so the schema. And the other demo that I want to show is our revenue tool. So what you see here is is our revenue tool. And as I mentioned before, revenue managers want to be able to control all the hotels, so they can just switch between different hotels that are on the service right now, and they get immediately the view on what has happened over the last day. If they want to look at something like, say, the last 3 days, they click on this thing. And actually, this was a bad choice. I'm just going to go with a different hotel, because this one told me that a snapshot is missing. So there, I should probably do something about that. And now here I see very clearly in these big ass numbers, the total number of rooms that have been picked up, the revenue that's been picked up over the last 3 days, as well as the increase in average rate. So the price at which hotels are selling their rooms, but also how do they compare versus their forecast, and how do they look on the books on the selected month. Now here you see on like a daily basis, and we're here on the 29th of April, we're looking at very low occupancies, which is part of the challenge that the industry is facing. But one of the things you have here is live data inserts or live data queries to our price, to a price checking tool, which makes sure that the prices being displayed on different places in the world all match up. And so you can make sure that these prices look right. They have certain restrictions, so you can control very much from this panel how you want to interact with the hotel, open or close certain channels, or make sure that you raise the price or something like this. And one of the cool things, which really makes it different to traditional BI tools, is all of this interactivity. So if I were to say, okay, I want to see how does this look versus the official forecast, I can also say, how did it look to the actual numbers last year over the same period of time. And now here we actually have real-time queries, which is really what all of this powers. But I can also adjust my queries against my price engine. And I can ask, okay, I don't want to know what prices are being displayed on Booking, but say, for instance, Expedia. And then it will update that accordingly. So this being said, this is really just a tiny preview of the tools that we use. You have here a whole slew of additional tools that we have, starting from a big forecasting tool where users can enter their forecasted revenue figures directly within the app without having to worry that they need to update their spreadsheet or need to send this in within a certain time. It's being logged according to the user. You have a dashboard which tells the hotels what to focus on. You have the data quality thing, which is this guy here, which I mentioned here. And as I said, this one walks you exactly through all the different stages from, okay, you have a snapshot that might be missing, so you can update a snapshot, or you have the files, you want to restage those, or if you don't have the files, then you can also upload the files, or worst case scenario, you can play with the underlying schema, which is actually a NoSQL data set there. So that concludes the demo. And our learnings are basically, if you can streamline and flowchart your process, it can very much certainly be built out in Retool. Our tools go, I would say, beyond the traditional sense of BI and reporting tools, as interactivity and usability is front and center. We've barely scratched the surface. That's mostly due to the pandemic and us being unable to build out much more than what we wanted to do. And in case you're interested in chatting about turning your spreadsheet into an app, reach out. There's my LinkedIn link. And thank you so much.